Welcome to the Sunshine Link, your source of recorded activities for senior care. Our purpose is to provide you with meaningful and engaging activities that span a wide variety of interests, from music to physical activity to world history to sharing memories. We hope that this brings some sunshine to your day.
Hi, my name is Barry Torch, and if you remember the last video, I'm a historian of the Renaissance in Italy. Last video basically ended with me talking about the famous book The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, and talking about how it represents that a merchant family like the Medici can become nobility. However, in today's video, I'm going to talk about how the Renaissance, which I presented as this amazing, wonderful thing to study, this period of transformation, is actually a little bit dangerous. In The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli writes, "It's better to be feared than loved," especially if you're a prince, which is what the book is about. It's good to be both loved and feared, but if you have to choose, it's better to be feared by your population rather than loved by it. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because throughout the Renaissance, throughout all this period of artistic and scientific development, the creation of beautiful buildings, the use of money to finance science and culture and recreate this idea of the greatness of the Roman Empire, a big danger presented by that is that to have all of that stuff, you need to have powerful and kind of oppressive governments too. All that famous art, literature, and culture was paid for by increasingly wealthier patrons. But the Renaissance was very dangerous because, well, where did they get that wealth from? And how did they institute governments to control all of this stuff? If you have the money to invest in beautiful portraits of your wife, comes lots of bureaucracy to manage all of this money, creating, again, this snowball effect where in order to manage everything, you need to create a government which needs new things to manage. There's a famous quote, "The bureaucracy is expanding to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy," which is a great way to talk about Renaissance government, but it's also a really dangerous development. It creates the snowball effect where a government in the Renaissance tries to manage its population a lot more. With these beautiful buildings and beautiful streets comes mapping, which becomes a great way of segregating and managing a population. With these beautiful investments in science and literature comes these descriptions of the world that are essentially colonizing descriptions of the world, creating types of people and types of better people and worse people. There are new laws and a rebirth of Roman law that becomes very, very oppressive and part of state management. There's new divisions between classes and groups of people, what certain classes can wear, what certain people can wear, when they can leave the house. As these merchants and governments got wealthier and wealthier, they became more obsessed with control. A really good example of this is the development of the Jewish Ghetto, which is a Renaissance development. You have these powerful cities like Venice and Florence and Rome, where through the Middle Ages, yes, the Jews were oppressed in the Middle Ages, but with these new expanding cities and powerful cities, you take all the people you don't like, in this case the Jews, and you push them to the outskirts of the city. You put them over there where they can be watched, they can be monitored, and they can be oppressed even more. People could not leave the ghetto at nights. There were new laws instituted about when and how you could talk to different people. All of this developed right at the same time as all of this beautiful art and culture and science. And in many ways, the culture reflected and enhanced the oppression. I said in the last video that the Renaissance spread from Italy to England, and across Europe actually, particularly along the great trade routes moving through Europe, and then moving around the entire world as well, through the process of European discovery of new lands. Unfortunately, The process of state development expanded as well. With the discovery of these new lands and new territories came this idea that you can control these new lands and new territories under this new state that you've developed. So countries like Italy, Portugal, Spain, England, France, the Netherlands, all of these European countries seeking new trade routes around the world started creating these empires where they commanded the land and tried to remake the world in their favor. And in many ways, they succeeded. They used slavery and slave labor to farm these new lands. They exterminated the native populations there and brought in forced labor to try and make the world into a world that serves them. How was this Renaissance? How was this related to all of this amazing art and culture that you see appearing across Europe? Well, one of the big things I emphasized in the last video was the importance of Romanness and this idea of Rome as this great power. Well, all of the Roman literature doesn't mention the New World. They hadn't discovered it. So when the Europeans went across the Atlantic and discovered new territories and new people who weren't Roman, they thought of these people, well, if the Romans didn't mention them, they're lesser than us. They're subhuman. And thus, they can be used by us, the Romans, or Roman heritage, to build our world, to build a new Rome. They're not Roman. They have no links with the classical past. We do, so we are better than them. We can enslave them. We can understand them as different. And we can use them to make ourselves great. Do you see how these Renaissance impulses, this great idea of promotion of Roman art and science and this renovation and this rebirth is in many ways a very dangerous thing? They would use all of this labor to create an empire, to oppress both external people and internal people. They would use this label of Roman versus barbarian across lots of countries. They would cast their enemies as non-Roman, and we are the real Romans. Look how good we are. This was a big deal in the period of empire. Another problem with state development is that this leads to major wars across Europe as well. Larger governments means that they have lots and lots of money to spend on art, to spend on science, but also to spend on soldiers and wars. They could hold a standing army, finally, keep an army in reserve instead of just getting people together to fight one or two wars. And they could use these institutions of new armies to go and conquer more land for themselves. Look at us, conquering just like the Romans did. So the Renaissance is considered this amazing thing for art and culture and science and literature. But with all of this art and culture and science and literature comes major wars, especially in rural, non-urban Europe, where they sacked many villages, they also sacked cities, and they tried to conquer all these lands and then standardize these lands, removing as much as they could all of these differences that they didn't like. A really unspoken one is this office of the knight that emerged in Florence and Venice, where people would submit names of others they thought were engaging in deviant sexual behavior under the cover of night. And then the office of the knight would go and arrest those people. Why? Because of their differences. The famous Spanish Inquisition, made fun of by Monty Python as being entirely unexpected. It was a medieval idea, the Inquisition. That is something they inherited from their past. But come the Renaissance, with these new governments that were very, very wealthy, came this rebirth of the Inquisition as well. Instead of just a religious thing, it became part of the state, which in Spain, in Italy, in France, across Europe, started persecuting as many others as they could find. Jews, Muslims, witches, heretics, it became a very effective weapon for statecraft as well. It became part of this process of state development. A question I have for you guys: can we still consider the Renaissance a good thing? While there was this amazing, beautiful art and literature emerging from the Renaissance, the Mona Lisa, all of Leonardo da Vinci's stuff, the beautiful Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo, the birth of science and the discovery of the sun-centered model of the universe, all of that came with all of this other awful stuff. The Spanish Inquisition, the birth of new empires and new territories. Can we consider the Renaissance a good thing? Also, can we consider state development a good thing? With the rise of all of this awfulness comes this idea that the state can also do good. There were births of charities. There was a new focus on public hygiene. There was this world where the state could take care of its citizens. Not all the citizens, but the good ones could be taken care of. Is state development really a bad thing?
Thank you for joining us at the Sunshine Link. Did you enjoy that activity? If so, we'd love to hear from you. Comment below, make sure to subscribe, and join our email list. We hope this brought some sunshine to your day.